Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors studio, here's Steve Jones.
And good afternoon. Welcome into the Steve Jones Show, Wednesday edition. As we head downhill to the weekend and wrap up February, News Radio 1070 WKOK. Steve, in just a few, will be checking in, of course, from the Sunbury Motors studio. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai, North 4th Street, Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Lots of ways to connect with us by email, stevejones@wkok.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, our Twitter handle @SteveJonesPSU. You can also subscribe to our Steve Jones Show podcast. If you're listening to us now via the podcast, thank you for downloading. And if you're listening through the Apple Podcast app or iTunes, please leave us a review. Help get the word out about the podcast. Of course, it is free to get. Hit subscribe on either iTunes, Apple Podcast app, Google Play, and then you don't have to worry about a thing. You don't have to search high and low. We drop the shows right to your smartphone and tablet so you can listen to them anytime, anywhere. And also you get access to 3 months of shows. We always have them archived for you on our website at stevejonesshow.com. So we'll be with you live till 5:06, our late day news roundup on WKOK. Zach Klein will be at the anchor desk then tonight. Steve will join you again here on WKOK with Dick Girardi from the Bryce Jordan Center as Penn State looks to get their third straight win in conference play as they take on Maryland. That'll be a 6:30 tip here on 1070 AM, and of course we'll have it streamed online at WKOK.com. Looks like we'll have Steve's brother Kevin Jones check in tomorrow because he doesn't want to wait till Friday, the most interesting man in Connecticut. So when he talks, we listen. So look forward to reconnecting with Kevin tomorrow. And then Friday, Steve and the basketball team will be en route to Wisconsin, Penn State, Wisconsin, Saturday afternoon. As there, after tonight, 3 remaining regular season games on the Penn State men's basketball schedule before the Big Ten tournament in Chicago. So we got Penn State basketball tonight here on WKOK. Over on Eagle 107 be Bucknell basketball. 2 games left on their regular season schedule. They'll be in Annapolis tonight to take on former Penn State head coach Ed DeChellis and Navy, the midshipmen. And airtime will be 6:30 from Annapolis with head coach Nathan Davis joining Doug Birdsong. Doug will have the courtside call starting at 7. And then the Orange and Blue will wrap up the regular season Saturday, a noon matinee against Army West Point. And the airtime on Eagle 107 will be at 11:30 a.m. And we know for sure that Bucknell will be hosting a Patriot League quarterfinal game. That'll be 1 week from tomorrow night on March the 7th. So once the regular season wraps up this weekend, we will know the seedings, and then we will know which team Bucknell will play. So as soon as the seedings are wrapped up, you'll be able to jump on bucknell.edu/box office and get your tickets for the quarterfinals. And hopefully there'll be 3 more home games at Soika, a quarterfinal, a semifinal, and a championship game. Just like last year with Bucknell winning all 3 of those and punching their ticket to March Madness. So we shall wait and see. So a couple sports headlines to give you, and then we'll check in with Steve. Philadelphia Eagles apparently closing the book on a weird, amazing chapter the franchise. Howie Roseman spoke earlier today from the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, making it official that the Eagles will not be using the franchise tag on quarterback Nick Foles. Instead, will let him test free agency. And, of course, he led Philadelphia to an improbable Super Bowl in 2018, defeating the Patriots to give the Eagles their first ever Super Bowl championship and their first NFL crown since 1960. And Foles won the Most Valuable Player award in the process. So Johnny Manziel is in the news. The Montreal Alouettes released him today, saying that he contravened the agreement which made him eligible to play in the CFL. Now, Manziel was not eligible to sign with another team in the league. Montreal had his full rights for 2 seasons. Not clear what Manziel did to violate his agreement with the Alouettes and the Canadian Football League. Manziel's 26. He played for the Alouettes last season in an attempt to resurrect his career. In 8 games, he completed 106 passes out of 165 for 1,290 yards with 5 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. And Manziel, well documented, has been going through several off-field issues. 3 years ago was a domestic assault charge against Manziel. That was dismissed after he took an anger management course and participated in the NFL's substance abuse program. In a recent interview, he said he'd been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and stopped drinking. He last played in the National Football League with the Cleveland Browns in 2015. They selected him 22nd overall in the 2014 draft. And a quick NFL note, free agent cornerback Adam Pac-Man Jones was waived by the Denver Broncos in November. He was arrested on charges of public intoxication, disorderly conduct earlier today at a casino in Indiana. He was booked at 3:10 in the morning. Pac-Man is 35 years old, a veteran of 14 NFL seasons, appeared in 7 games for Denver last season, making 2 starts, had an interception, 3 passes defensed, and 9 tackles, and also returned 10 punts and 4 kickoffs for Denver. Prior to joining the Broncos, Pac-Man Jones spent 8 seasons with Cincinnati. He was arrested a couple of years ago for allegedly pushing a security guard and failing to comply with law enforcement. So some quick football headlines there for you. We will take a quick break and then attempt to connect with Steve in our Sunbury Motors studio. Of course, Steve tonight will be in the BJC for Penn State basketball, Nittany Lions and Maryland, with a 6 p.m. airtime with Coach Patrick Chambers in the pregame, and then Steve and Dick Girardi will have the call at 6:30 as Penn State goes into the home stretch of their Big Ten Conference schedule. Back in just a few on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
When it comes to car buying, there's the other guy's way, and then there's the SMC way. The other guys force you into a vehicle you really don't want. The Sunbury Motors way lets you take the time you need to browse, ask questions, and take the test drive and think on it. For over 100 years, the Mertz family and all their employees have made your experience the most pleasant one you'll ever have. The other guys won't offer you the best price for your trade, no matter how much they say they will. The SMC way is their promise to provide you with the most money the market shows your vehicle is worth. The SMC way is to offer you all applicable factory rebates on new vehicles and generous discounts. Looking for a pre-owned vehicle? The SMC way checks each vehicle in a 200-mile radius to determine the lowest price, then beat it. It's the lowest price promise, just part of the SMC way. The choice is up to you, the other guy's way or the SMC way. The SMC way wins every time. Sunbury Motors Company in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and at sunburymotors.com. Selling more cars and satisfying more customers for over 100 years.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now, from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
All right, Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. It's Howard Hessman's birthday today. That's Dr. Johnny Fever.
I didn't tell you how old he was. Take a guess.
Hessman?
Yeah.
I'll say 82.
Oh. Actually, 79.
79? Close.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the neighborhood.
Didn't think he was that old.
So, Doug in Wellsboro emails yesterday, and all the email says is, "As God is my witness, I swear turkeys could fly."
One of the great quotes in the entire 3 or 4 year run of that show from the big guy himself.
Oh, my goodness. God is my witness. I swear turkeys could fly. Oh, my God. That was too good. Too good. So we have one magical cut from them.
Well, coming off the success of the movie Bohemian Rhapsody, we found this.
Not a moment too soon either, babies. That was Queen with their big hit, one that I never particularly cared for, but am nevertheless forced to play here on WKRP. This is Dr. Johnny Fever, just doing my job, following the orders of Venus Flytrap. He's just doing Andy Travis' job, while Andy fills in for our sales manager, Herb Tarlick, who's not doing his job.
And you and I all know that's true. That was from, oh my goodness, how many years ago was that?
Now let's see, that was on what, 3-4 years, late 70s to 19, like 81. I think went 4 years, 4 seasons.
I mean, people remember obviously Lonnie Anderson, but Jan Smithers was in that.
Bailey Quarters.
Bailey Quarters. And, oh, goodness. Yes, that was a long time ago. Long time ago. It's interesting where we are. I think TK Troy sent us an email message about what we were talking about yesterday about paying athletes. Because I made the comment on the show about, hey, look, we offer scholarships and stipends. You don't want to go someplace else, right? Oh, it's going to be inevitable. Inevitable for, okay, it might be inevitable because they're going to challenge it in court, and there's going to be a court that's going to say yes. So I got all that part. I mean, no offense, TK, I probably have explained it better than anybody so far. You probably are getting your opinion from how I explained it. Let's start with that. But it's going to go to a court, then it's going to go up another court, another court, another court. And as I mentioned several times, the case in California is the one that's the key one that the NCAA, quite frankly, doesn't think it's going to win. But there are going to be so many options between now and when this case is finally decided, probably at the Supreme Court level. And when they do decide this case, or at least get to the point of making an argument about it, here are going to be the options. Okay? Who says that an athlete has to go to college? Nobody. You are not forced to go to college to play basketball in this country. Now, football is a little different. It's 3 years. But again, I'll get to that next part in a moment. Nobody is forcing you, oh, I got to go to college to play basketball. No, you don't. You can go to China. It's happened. First-round pick 2 years ago, played 1 year in China instead of going to college. You can go to Europe. You can go to Australia. You can go to New Zealand. You can now go to the G League. You can do all those things. You can do all of that now, where you're going to get paid for playing basketball. You're not going over there as a charity case. You're going over to play basketball.
So I found TK Troy's message. He sent us a line on Facebook. The NCAA is never going to encourage 18-year-olds not to go to college. These players seriously do make them millions. They'll start playing them before they start telling them to skip school. 2019 is a tough time. The social media era is changing the world. Maybe for the worse, but change is happening.
Well, I mean, that's fine, except here's the bottom line. It's not a question they're going to play them. It's a question of, I want to be paid. And you have to look at them and go, you're not going to be paid? Now, you and I both know that there are certainly individuals out there that go, well, we'll figure out a way to get you some money. And then, and we know that. That's one of the reasons why there are going to be certain coaches that are testifying in April and have been subpoenaed to testify in April. That's what, between what they're looking at with AAU, what they're looking at with assistant coaches, many of whom have now the ones that have been involved in this case, I think 3 of them have now pled out. And that's what they're looking into. All right, so that's the end of the table stuff. How much is college basketball going to be damaged or college football going to be damaged by players leaving early? How many are going to do it? A handful. A handful. That's why I said the heck with the farce of it. Let the 18-year-olds, if they want to go straight in, fine. And do not give them an avenue. Right? You made your choice. You want to go pro. There's your choice. Okay. That's why it bothers me. Under the current rules, Nick Bosa can go back to Ohio State and get his degree and doesn't have to pay for it. He quit. Okay? He flat out quit. Now, was he injured? Yes. Could he have come back to play later in the season? Maybe. I mean, I'm not a doctor, although it sounds like I play one in the air. But that's the that's where you sit there and you look at some of these rules. Under the rules, he can go back to Ohio State 5-10 years from now and get his degree. Okay, well, last I checked, you quit. And he did. I'm sorry. That's what he did. He quit. In the middle of the season, I'm done. Really? You quit. Okay. All right. And so paying these guys, it'll change the model forever. There's no getting around that. There's going to be now, I think he's right that it's an unsettling time. Yeah, it's an unsettling time. Totally agree with that. It's an unsettling time. But it's going to be an unsettling time not for football and men's basketball. Now, let's get something straight here. It's not really, in reality, not an unsettling time for football and men's basketball. It is an unsettling time for all the other sports. Like all the other sports. All the other sports are looking at all this stuff, and they're saying, how are we going to survive? Any suggestions? Because we don't have the fan bases or the money to do it. And as I've said many times, Penn State won't drop wrestling, a favorite sport of many people who listen to this show. But 60 other schools may drop it, so now you're competing against a dozen schools? Really, I mean, how exciting is that for you? That's what this means. Football will continue on. Men's basketball will continue on. What else continues on? And it doesn't matter how great that non-revenue sport has been for you. It doesn't matter. That is irrelevant. What was the primary feeder for the United States gymnastics team in the 80s? UCLA gymnastics. What did UCLA do years ago? Drop gymnastics. It doesn't matter. Okay? It does not matter. If it's not helping out financially and it's one of your options, you're going to go with one of your options. Your job is to keep your athletic department alive. How do you do it? And if you're forced to pay athletes, fine. That's why my attitude is almost like, hey, you know what? You got options. Now let's get to the football part. What are your options? Your options in football might now be the XFL. They're not married to the idea of staying in school 3 years and then going on and playing and then playing pro football. If the XFL thinks that you can play and help them right away, guess what they're going to do? They're going to sign you and try and play you right away and make a big splash. The way Herschel Walker did after his third year in going to the USFL, which shook up the NFL model forever. The XFL can do the same thing. So, actually, one of the strengths that the NCAA would have in its argument, in my opinion, would be as follows. You're 18 years old. You have options. You can play in the G League in the United States. You can play in China. You can play in Europe. You can play in New Zealand. You can play in Australia. You can play in South America. There's a lot of all those areas I just talked about, all that pro basketball. You can play for a year like Emmanuel Mudiay did, and then get your way to the draft. It's obviously a path that's already been done. We offer scholarships and stipends. So it's what we do. And the reason we offer scholarships and stipends is that we're academic institutions. Oh, and by the way, it allows us to have, and you've got to go hard on the Title IX argument. It allows us to offer women's track. It allows us to offer softball. It allows us to offer women's volleyball, women's soccer. I mean, you go through all that and mention all the Title IX sports you're able to offer because of the current model. That, to me, then becomes an argument that there are options professionally they can go to that accept them, and you can get to the NBA through those options. Mudiay's already proven that. And he was a first-round pick. And if the XFL starts doing what I think it could do, that's the same argument on football. Now, if a court says you got to pay him, then you're going to have to do it. It'll eventually be decided in the courts, and I would not be surprised it's decided by 9 people in Washington, D.C. If they say you have to, you have to. Then you have to figure it out, and then if you're a fan of something that's not football or men's basketball, then you have to be really worried, because now you have to make hard decisions. How do you get there? There's only so much money in the well. We'll come back with more in a moment on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Hello, Sean.
There you go.
I had to do that by memory.
Uh-oh. MacGyver's back. MacGyver's back in the studio. Look out.
MacGyver's back in the studio, and I'm not going to tell you what I did because I just wanted, I mean, I know you've gone to somebody else for advice. I just want to say in no uncertain terms, I really miss Harry.
Well, whatever you did, whatever your setup is, take your iPhone and screen grab it, and then you have it for future reference.
Well, no, I just kind of did it on my own here, just to kind of. I don't know. I looked over and said, well, if I plug this in here and I plug this in there, and hey! Oh, wait a minute. And then I forgot, okay, you have to change the configuration over. So I did that. Harry would have been proud.
Yes. Yes,
Roger would have been proud. The Biffer's mad that I figured it out. Because he wanted to figure it out. I wanted to make that putt. Oh.
Sometimes a reboot just doesn't do it. You hope that's all it takes, but...
Well, I'll explain to you in the break what I did. Because it's not what you think.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, then you definitely need to screen grab it and send it to me. I gotta see this.
All right, more coming up next hour.
Your station for news, weather, business, and CBS Sports Radio. News Radio 1070 WKOK Sunbury and on WKOK.com.